Gunnar Thompson with Oat Specialties, and today let's go with part 4 of the training program series. Alright, so no mystery here. I obviously encourage everyone to kind of think out of the box when it comes to training. I want you to kind of push the edge a little bit so that you can better prepare your athletes in a way that may be a little bit better than what they normally are used to, and maybe what you're used to as a coach. Or if this is from an athlete's perspective, maybe you're just stuck in what you're comfortable doing day in and day out, and maybe you need to get a little uncomfortable. So, today I want to give you, with all that being said, I want to give you 3 things that I came up with that may be possible downsides to switching the training program, or maybe going towards this new style of training that I explained in part 2 and part 3, which if you haven't seen, go ahead, click it now. So I thought really long and hard about what are some negative things for this. And I came up with 3, but I want to tell you maybe possibly some of the things that you could overcome, or maybe just resolutions to those issues as well. So let's go with 1. Time. Everybody, time is something that you can't pay for, you can't buy more of, right? Everybody doesn't have enough time. Coaches don't have enough time with their athletes. Athletes don't have enough time. They got to go take the girl out to dinner. They got to go catch a movie. They got to do all this stuff. So they don't have time. Well, the good thing is you can kind of do something that I talked about in part 2 and then also in part 3, which is take this new training, this style, maybe the exercises, that sort of thing, and work them into your existing program. So if you're already spending an hour in the weight room, then breaking some of those sets into what I call fillers, right? You could easily use the water ball, water bag in the weight room. You can easily use some of these tools like medicine balls, that sort of thing, in the weight room and do them in between sets. So you get a bang for your buck when it comes to time that way. Also, when it comes to speed chains, you can get a full workout in 15-20 minutes. So a lot of times whenever people tell me that they just don't have time, I don't see that as a really reasonable excuse. You have to make time for certain things, but if you're already allocating that time, then you can always just try to fit things in and maybe prioritize them a little differently. So that leads us to 2, overuse. Now this one I actually really get, okay? From a common sense perspective, it makes sense. People have told me in the past, look, my athletes are already rotating all day at practice. They're doing it during the games. I don't want them rotating during the training program because I'm afraid that they'll be overused. There'll be too much repetitions. It'll just be overuse for them. And I get that. One of the things that I strongly encourage, no matter what it is, I don't care if it's the weight room, if you're lifting, I don't care if it's, your throwing program, your hitting program, whatever it is, it needs to be a slow to moderate progression. So you don't just go in and immediately do 500 reps of a lunge with a water ball twist, okay? That's not something that's realistic, but it's also not something that you would do from a soft tissue perspective. We all know that tendons and ligaments are a little slower to heal than muscles are. Okay, so we want to slowly acclimate them to the stimulus. So we want to slowly build that up, and then once you've built that up, then you have a really robust system that can handle that type of workload. And not to mention, whenever you're talking about going out and running or building endurance, that sort of thing, there's no better endurance than actually doing the movement pattern and preparing the body to do that movement pattern over and over and over and over. So I get the argument whenever people talk about they're afraid of overuse. I get it. But if you slowly progress and also give the ability to regress if needed, right? We talked about auto-regulation there. So if you're able to do that, then the athlete can progress themselves to a point where they can handle that workload. Third is equipment. Some coaches and athletes in particular too are like, look, I don't have the money. I can't afford new equipment. You know, here's the good thing. A lot of this equipment is pretty inexpensive relative to, say, a new weight room, okay? Or a new squat rack, or a new barbell, or anything like that, right? For a couple $100, you could get a speed chain that you could do your entire workout with, okay? I'm telling you, a speed chain workout will wear your butt out and get you stronger and faster and more explosive than I've ever seen. But you can also buy medicine balls, you can buy water balls, water buoys, you can buy bands. The possibilities are endless there. So I understand that there is going to be some financial commitment there with, a few $100s, and to some people a few $100s isn't the end of the world, but some people it is. And so if you don't have the few $100s to spend, there are still some things that you can do and that you can find out to do that don't cost you anything extra. So say you're just committed to the weight room and you only have $35 a month or whatever you're paying for that weight room commitment each month. In between sets, you can do filler exercises, and maybe you do a lunge with a twist. You just don't have the medicine ball or the water ball or that sort of thing with it. Or maybe your gym already has a medicine ball, and so you're able to use it. So try to use the resources that you do have, but still think outside of the box when you're actually programming what you're actually doing. Again, we're just trying to take, what was traditional, and again, this is evolving. I'm starting to see a shift now where people are starting to take this type of training really serious. But we still have a lot of people. I personally played with a lot of kids in the summer that all they did was they went to the weight room and lifted, and then they threw. And every time I would sit there and I'm just like, why? Like, you're not preparing your body to go throw by just lifting. I'm not saying that lifting's not important. I've already talked about that in one. But that's not the whole picture. You got to bridge the gap. There's that missing link. There's that missing piece. So those are the three things that I could come up with that a coach or an athlete might have or might argue is a downside to changing their training program. I appreciate you tuning in. Starting in a couple of weeks, we're going to have a new series primarily over our speed chains because it's an invaluable tool that you get a short, explosive workout in and you receive great results. So I appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to subscribe and smash that bell so you're notified every time we put out a video. I really appreciate y'all. Have a great day.